Welcome to Fuel Your Drive. All right, guys, we have another episode today. Now, you guys have asked for it, and I'm going to deliver. You wanted some, more one-on-one interviews. You wanted to do it in person. I got a great guest here, also a good friend of mine. Today's guest is a true heavyweight in the world of modern media, okay? He didn't just ride the wave of culture, he helped create it, okay? Rich Antoniello is the founding CEO of Complex and the media juggernaut that redefined how we talk about sneakers, hip-hop, streetwear, and youth culture at large. From pioneering digital content when everyone else was clinging to print, to building shows like Hot Ones and sneaker shopping in cultural staples, Rich has spent the last 2 decades at the bleeding edge of what's cool, what's relevant, and what sells. But behind the headlines and viral moments is a master operator, and also a handsome guy. Former ad guy who turned a bold vision into the most influential platform in media. Today, we're diving in to how he built Complex, what he's learned about scaling, selling, and most importantly, I talk about this all the time, storytelling. And where he sees the future culture going next. He sold Complex for $300 million, and he did it twice. So respect for that. This is a conversation about hustle, instinct, disruption, and how to stay ahead of the curve. So please welcome to Fuel Your Drive, Rich Antoniello.
Thank you. Wow, that's an intro.
That's how we do it.
I might steal that.
You could steal it. You can steal it. Now listen, real quick, before we get started, guys, as you know, please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a relative, go out to the store today, you're getting a sandwich, tell someone in the sandwich shop. I want everyone to know we want to keep growing the podcast. The numbers continue to grow, and I can't do it without you, so thank you so much. So Rich, I'm super happy to have you here. We met from another friend a while ago, went out to dinner and just hit it off, and it's great. And
I'm sorry I've been a little difficult to get a hold of.
That is not a problem. That's not a problem. But listen, what I like to do is I like to really get behind entrepreneurship because people like to talk about it and make it like it's so cool and it's so amazing, but no one ever talks about the pain, the struggle, all the pressure, and what it really takes to build a company. And you have done it. You've done it successfully, and I got nothing but a lot of respect for you. So let's start out what was the original inspiration behind Complex? Like, how did it start?
So, well, actually, let's take a step back. Number one, because there's 2 things. I want to make one comment because it's the big thing, the big issue with a lot of these conversations around entrepreneurship is everybody, there's not one person who has made it to the other side that doesn't go, oh my God, I love everything that I've received from this. And when I say that, I don't just mean the capital. I mean, look, great entrepreneurs bring a lot of people along for the ride, change the world, create things with legacy, create brands that have a connotation. There's a lot there, and there's a lot of value. And I say this all the time, you better be doing it for more than yourself and for more than the money, or don't even fucking bother starting.
I love that. I love that.
Literally, and you know how true that is, right?
Listen, it's so true.
So this passion cannot just come from making your bank account bigger.
100%.
Number one. And 2 is, what's interesting is when you start, if you get people to think about that, you get rid of a lot of the cohort that I know you don't love, right? Which is, if you're only trying to reverse engineer a result versus actually trying to build something, and then that you get the results with that, you actually get rid of a lot of people that are not going to be successful because they're in it for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And they don't also have, how do I want to say it? You follow me, we go back and forth on things a lot on social, and, will and determination are not, it's become catchphrases to people.
100%.
I don't think people understand what that really means. It means that you are always going to find a way to win. You are always going to figure it the F out. You are the fortitude that it takes when everybody else gives up. You're not even close to even contemplating it. And I just want to start there because I love your energy.
Thank you.
And I think there's a lot of people that's not foundational. That's, the persona they play on social media.
Yep.
And what's needed from a salesmanship perspective to be successful, irrespective of the category or the business that you're building, is is what you have in spades, right? And what I think a lot of people need. And you can't turn it on and off. And it's not just for the 45-second reel on Instagram either, by the way. Yep. And you can't learn that. Yep. Right? So let's take a step back, right? Yep. So sorry, I just wanted to kind of reset that tone a little bit.
I think we might be done with the episode.
Yeah. Well, now let's dig into it, right? But, I didn't come up with like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't grow up that way. I grew up in Brooklyn, Canarsie, public school kid, loved hip hop, loved sneakers, loved all those passion points. And I just wanted to get the hell out of Brooklyn, right? Like I wanted to live a different life than, and no shots at Brooklyn, but like I wanted to live a different life. Yep. So for me, initially it started like I was just criticizing. I wanted money. I wanted to get out. So I actually took the corporate route first, right? I worked at Saatchi & Saatchi. I worked in the largest advertising agency in the world with the largest advertiser in the world, Procter & Gamble. I went and was part of a launch team at Men's Journal for Wenner Media, which is Rolling Stone, Jan Wenner, things like that. Went and launched a magazine called Adventure inside of National Geographic, which is basically like I got to be an intrapreneur, which I think it's like being an entrepreneur with training wheels and talk
about it all the time.
Yep. Right? Like it's super important.
Yep.
And then I was 29 years old and I met Mark and Seth, Mark Echo and Seth Gersberg, and they were like, and Marcy, Mark's twin, and they were like, we have this idea, but we don't really know how to do any of this. And I was like, wait a second, the overlap of the concentric circles of niche culture, and it was about to tip over, and niches were going to influence the larger scale audience for the first time ever. This is 2002, 2003. Yep. Now, this all sounds duh now, but nobody was thinking that way, yep. Right? Niches just sat on the outside and the periphery of everything, and then you had big popular brands and publishers and things like that, and there were handfuls of people that really disproportionately did all the revenue, had all the influence and things like that. The world was not as fragmented and segmented, and I had this opportunity to take all my corporate experience from Saatchi and Nat Geo and Wenner Media and apply it to my passion points in a very creative way on a business launching inside an apparel company, a publishing company launching inside an apparel company, which, by the way, looking back, was probably the worst odds you could ever root for, because everybody's skill sets were around apparel manufacturing and other things like that. Everything that we did was, print magazine initially, yep. A narrative creating, messaging. It had nothing to do with physical product initially. So looking back, it's kind of bizarre, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I want to do this. There was this crazy opportunity. I had a vision for how to make it very successful. And I got to apply the amalgamation of all aspects of my life in this crazy career. And that was the opportunity for me.
It's unbelievable. Now, when you started, did you have money?
So number one, I had no, my dad was kind of like, at 18, he's like, have fun. Everything's on you, right? Like, that's just the way I grew up. My dad was a UPS guy, right? So, but those corporate jobs, I got into sales really young. And how do I want to say this? I love you to death, and I think you're an unbelievable salesperson. If you think you're good, you have not fucking seen anything. Like, I know how to sell.
I like competition.
I know that. A different type of sales, right? I figured out very quickly I had a very good aptitude to be able to sell to large scale, super professional corporate people and large scale deals and sell the dream very early. Like, I was 23 when I got my first sales job. I was making $300,000, $400,000 in 1995.
Wow.
That's like making like $2 million now.
That's crazy. So but were you saving that money? Like, how was it?
Well, I really enjoyed my 20s.
Right.
So I saved some. Right. I made some very good investments in real estate, and some really good, stock investments as well. But I enjoyed a lot of that. So I had some money. And that enabled me to get past my I'm a poor kid from Brooklyn to be able to take the leap to do the entrepreneur thing. Because, you know, leaving a $400,000 or $500,000 a year job that was cushy and I'm good at, to go start something brand new and take a massive pay cut. Yep. Like literally, I probably for the first year and a half, 2 years, made 1/3 of what I was making before. Yep. To trade for the equity and the opportunity to lead this organization. Yep. I don't think a lot of people understand. It's not a lot of people have the appetite to do that, right? Yep. And a lot, they call it golden handcuffs. So, you know, for me, the money thing was, I also realized that it was great to make money. It was great to be in the cut on things, but the opportunity to build something, again, I go back to what I was saying before. Yep. The equity was very important. The opportunity to build something big. And look, we were dreaming like maybe we can make this thing worth $80 million back in the day. Yep. Hysterical how that didn't work out well beyond our original thought process. Yep. But it was more of like, we're here to change. We're here to get credit for all of the cultural creators that were at the forefront, all like the graph artists, all the graffiti guys, like, you know, Cause, Futura, you know, these guys were not getting the credit. Like, and I'm not saying we are the only ones who did it, but Complex was probably the pinnacle that shined a light on all these cultural superheroes that really were not getting the credit and the amount of influence for what they did for everything across the board. And that was a big part of what we wanted to do. Now, you know, the magazine 0203, we had a vision for what the web might be, but we had to iterate that very quickly by 06, 07. Again, still well before, for most of your listeners probably don't remember this, but this was pre-social media. Yep. Right? Very different world.
Very different world.
Very different world. And scalability and distribution were very different. So you had to basically build your distribution as a magazine was newsstands, believe it or not, was subscriptions and your website. Yep. Like, and by the way, driving traffic to one place, not having, you know, 45 conversations across 45 different platforms at different times. Yep. So, you know, for us, again, I go back, the money was a big part of what you know was a great opportunity for me, but the building was the bigger part. That's what I found really attractive.
100%. You know, it's like I'm thinking about when I started too, because I wasn't making 300,000, but as a personal trainer, I was making about 150. And this is going back to, I was in my early teens. I gave it all up because I thought I needed to get a 9-to-5 job because that's what they taught me to do. So I gave it up to take a marketing job for $30,000 a year with a bunch of miserable people. Ooh. How crazy is that? Then I went backwards, lost all my clients, had to build them up all over again. And that's what made me start the,
what made you realize, how fast did it take for you to realize that the marketing job wasn't for you and the corporate world wasn't for you?
Within an hour. Within 1 hour.
So how long did you do it for?
I stayed there for like 2 months.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, look, you gave it a college try.
It was just the worst.
Probably didn't go over too well with your parents, but that's a whole nother conversation.
It was the worst experience ever. Like literally the worst experience. And I remember, I'll never forget this because I want to visit him one time. So back when I did have hair, now I'm bald and beautiful, but when I did have hair, I used to go to this barber. And
you have a good head for no hair.
Thank you very much. We should maybe do like a separate video for that. You know? So I used to go to this barber, and I always replay this in my head because I want to see the guy one day. And he asked me, he goes, let me ask you a question. What's your mommy daddy think that you're a trainer? This is what he used to say to me. Because I used to feel like, because, you know, really being a personal trainer in the majority of like these facilities, you have nowhere to go.
That's right.
We've created a career path for these people to really be successful for trainers because being a trainer is not scalable. You can't do it forever. But, you know,
but hold on, let's take a step back for 1 second, because this is, I know this wasn't planned, that I'm sorry it's not on your sheet, but this is a really important conversation. Yeah. This is where I don't even think you give yourself enough credit. Like we were just talking beforehand, right, about how to position your company and things like that. You just said something really important. I saw your eyes light up when you talked about it. You're empowering other trainers 100%. To change their life. You're the Pied Piper of a lot of those guys.
Oh, listen,
and
that's great.
you layer on the fact that you guys are an earlier, if not the first mover of the personalization of this as well.
Yep.
And the ability to like travel to someone and the convenience. These are all things that are the future.
Yep.
So you're already years ahead, and you're enabling other people, not just, it's a foundational part of what your business is. Not like you're not doing it out of the kindness of your heart only,
yep.
but that is a foundational component and thought process in the build of your business. Yep. Again, what people don't understand, by doing it that way, you disproportionately increase the odds and the likelihood of your success as well. Because now what you're doing is you're basically dissipating the risk that you're the only person that's the brand ambassador. You're not going to be the only face of this. Yep. The experience of GYMGUYZ and what it means to people is across now all these people that yep. take that on for you every day and become your organic brand ambassador and your representative. That's a very smart way to think about the world today. Yep. And I think that's where I don't think a lot of people, when they position their business, when they go into entrepreneurship, consider like your brand name is one thing, your positioning is another. Like, okay, how much did you really think about what your differentiation mode is? How do you work every day to expand that moat, not let that erode? How does that differentiation come to life in the smallest thing, the middle thing, and the biggest way? Always. Yep. And that level of obsession and being deliberate is also another reason why people fail or are not successful.
100%. 100%. Yeah. It's funny. So, we talk about this, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, the game of being an entrepreneur, So like, I'm just trying to relate to like your story, because you pretty much, did what no one's ever been able to do. And I'm sure you had those people telling you, Rich, come on, what are you talking about? Like, go you got to do a print company, or, put a magazine out. So, and you totally flipped it, because, you're a disruptor, and that's what we are too. Now, let's get behind the game of being an entrepreneur, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there and people don't really understand. I like to create the franchise model because, I want people to be able to have a proven system that they can follow and, be successful at it. But for someone just to go out there and start, which you did, is very easy to say, is not easy to do.
Well, so let's go to something we were talking about before and yep. kind of bring that around to your question as well. Like, we would have made a huge mistake if I just would have been like, look, we have a great print magazine. We broke even after 3.5 years in publishing. That's huge. Twice as fast as yep. most. It used to be 7 years to break even. We got there in 3.5 years in publishing. Yep. Everybody and their brother would, and by the way, my partners did the same. I went to them at the end of 2006 and I'm like, good news, bad news. Good news is we broke even. Bad news is every penny of profit, we're not going to start paying everybody back. We're actually going to go and put that all into pivoting into digital. Yep. Now that sounded like very radical, because I wasn't romantic about what got me there. Like, what got us there as Complex was not going to take us forward. I did see the tea leaves. Like, print was starting to erode at the end of 2006. And you got to remember, social media hadn't happened yet. The web alone was just eroding it. Yep. And I'm like, we have to go hardcore into this. And that's when we launched the Vertical Ad Network, and we brought a whole bunch of bloggers along, which were just, the first level of the first tier of creators. So we aggregated, Nice Kicks and Kicks on Fire and On Smash and Nah Right, and like all the best voices in the world of music and sneakers and style and hip hop culture. And we aggregated and closed off that entire thing on an exclusive basis. We didn't realize, like, I thought that was a good move. I didn't realize how great it was when that also got tripled and quadrupled and amplified organically by social media, because these were also the first movers on Twitter, the first movers on Facebook, first movers on Instagram. And, these were unbelievable opportunities for us. So my point there is, you can't ever be, like, the other thing is, like, people think like it's one hill right? The fight for entrepreneurship. You're fighting a battle from 5 sides every single day.
Every single day.
And then every one of those battles is multiple hills. And yeah, okay, I solved this problem. In this day and age, you solve a problem. Like right now, if you solve the problem from a PR perspective, right? Like, oh, well, here's the better positioning for us. You're going to have a copycat within 3 months.
100%. Yep.
Like, and by the way, on a narrative basis, you might have a copycat in 3 days, right?
Yep.
So people have to understand you're solving a problem or overcoming a challenge or an issue every single day, all day long, 24/7, and you're going to have to iterate your business. So that means you can't be romantic about what got you there, which everybody likes to. And everybody holds on to it too long, which is why a lot of brands die. They have to take a quick ride up. Usually the faster the ride up, the faster the ride down, especially in this day and age.
Yep.
But it's like, all right, what got you there? And then what is the iteration that's going to take you to the next step up instead of taking that elevator back down? And the exhaustion and fear that comes with not being romantic and not being comfortable, just knowing I went back and this is what used to work for us. You're constantly going, what's going to work tomorrow? Yep. And I don't think that gets talked enough about. And that's another very key component in this whole game.
I agree. I think another thing that people don't talk about, I know, you get to a certain point. How do you break through to the next point? People don't talk about that. So like...
Well, there's so many layers to that.
There's a lot of layers.
There's the financial layer. There's the audience layer.
The team member layer.
There's the team... Like, look, we were a lot of different businesses.
Yep.
And a lot of different, what took us... The hardest thing was zero to 15 million in revenue.
Yep, it's very hard.
And then what the hardest part for me going from 15 to 50 was? How few of the people that got us from 0 to 15 were going to be able to stay on our team to get to 50.
Let me tell you a crazy story.
That is heartbreaking.
Let me tell you a crazy story. So back in the day, I got mentored a little bit by Fred DeLuca, the founder of Subway.
Oh, yeah.
I met him at a show. And I will never forget this. He says to me, listen, I'm going to give you some really good advice. I just started franchising. I had one franchise. He said, I want you to go back and look at your team, and I want you to look at everyone really well. If you have one person still with you in the next couple of years, consider yourself lucky because they're all going to be gone. And this is like coming from a billionaire, Fred DeLuca. And I'm like to myself, this guy knows, what is he talking about? Like this one, they're going to be here forever. They're all gone. I only have one person that's still here actually, who is actually my controller. And she was the only person who's seen our first office. She's been able to pivot, get real uncomfortable, step outside that comfort zone and grow. But it's so true. You have to get new people and you have to continue to keep upgrading.
It's not just upgrading. And upgrading is a bad word because it means it's just you need
growth.
Your business needs different capabilities at different stages, right?
Yep.
And I will tell you something. Like, listen, man, there were people that did things in the 0 to 15 who just couldn't be the 15 to 50. That I got news for you. The people that 15 to 50 could never even dream of creating $1.
Yeah.
So it's I don't look at it as an upgrade. I don't really like that connotation. I look at it as more, and I know that's not where you were going.
I'm saying upgrade because some people
you're upgrading the totality of what everybody you're aligning the skill sets and capabilities with what is needed for the business at that time frame.
Yep.
That's different than upgrading.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like upgrading to me is like individual, like, like the one thing, I know I don't come off this way, but that I'm a pretty good numbers guy.
Yep.
So
very good.
For me, it's challenging. I don't use my CFO to do modeling or planning.
Yep.
I've done it always.
Yep.
I do all the comp plans. I do all the, like new product initiative modeling. I've always done that.
Yep.
I used to get pushed all the time by my board to be like, oh, let's upgrade our CFO. And, when I was younger, the first time I was like, okay. And we made a change that I didn't really want to. And also I realized quickly I didn't need.
Yep.
Because I could do it and I would do it better because I had I'm on the street from a sales perspective. I have the vision for what the qualitative nature of the company is and how those things integrate into the model, not just a financial expert who's a master at Excel, right? And my point there is not to debate the word upgrade. It's more of getting the entrepreneur to be intellectually honest about what they do need and what they don't need that is specific to them and their business, not just what other people say. Because a lot of people listen to their investors too much, listen to their board too much, or also sometimes fall in love with one mentor. Like to me, look, I didn't have a mentor, so I kind of figured out a lot on my own. And that's probably not good, but knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have wanted one. I would have wanted 5 with 5 different expertises. I would put a board together of mentors to make sure to keep each other honest and to make sure that they were pushing me vertically. I wasn't just trying to copy or replicate what somebody else did, irrespective of how smart they are. Because that's never going to work for me and my company. And that's another mistake I watch a lot of entrepreneurs make.
100%. I agree with you on that. So let's talk a little bit about, the failure, the pressure that's involved. So obviously, I'm sure I'd be sitting here forever talking about challenges, but how did you get pushed through some very big challenges along the way? And obviously, I'm sure getting to those certain revenue thresholds, obviously always come new challenges, new issues. What is one you could point out that comes to top of mind that was just such almost like a disaster? See, what I do is,
how long you got? Literally, I don't even know where to go. It could be raising capital during the Great Recession, trying to raise capital in 08, 09. You'd have better. I think there were the odds were better winning the lottery than raising capital during that time, and that was the first time we really raised institutional money for Complex. That was one. Our pivot to video from text in 2012, well ahead of the market, right when YouTube was still more of a UGC dumping ground. We were let's go into YouTube and we'll treat it like our cable channel. And we were very early movers in that. And my belief, I made so many mistakes, but let me go to one that was a self-inflicted mistake that I think is very, very important to talk about. We were moving into video and we had this ad network, right? Where we had control and had big, deep partnerships with the best sites in the world. And again, social media had amplified, but there was still a lot of web traffic foundationally in 2012, 2013.
Right.
And I knew YouTube was important, but they had this little thing called the YouTube tax. It's 45% that comes right off the top. I'm sure you're very familiar with. And for them being the distribution platform, that's the way they make a lot of their money. And I was like, wait a second. I have a network of 110 million unique visitors and this and that. Why don't I just do a custom media player, distribute our video off of ours, and we'll keep that 45% and distribute it among ourselves. Within 6 months, we were doing okay, but the views, what I was realizing is on our own customized player, it wouldn't travel. Nobody was taking it, copying it, pasting it other places. Right. It wouldn't work mobily. I know this, again, these all sound like crazy times, right? Video just did not work mobile, right, in 12 and 13. And I could have held on and been romantic and said, you know what, we're just gonna make this work. Normally I would have, but I'm being an idiot. I'm being short-sighted and not realizing that the 45% tax is nothing for the scalability that we will have because of YouTube. And it only took me 6 months to do it, and we rejiggered it, and that's when we exploded. Literally, we exploded after that. And that was a huge mistake on my part initially because I knew better. I didn't trust my gut. I let my ego make that decision because I was like, screw them, we're not paying them. Not how can I go into video and not have YouTube as our premier destination.
But But you made the mistake and you fixed it and
Very quickly.
But would you go back and if you did it again, would you still make the mistake or would you not? Because
No. That was my point. It wasn't specific to that.
Yep.
I normally don't let my ego
Get
make decisions.
Yep.
I'm very cold about things. Like I'm very numbers, like I do my work. I think about the qualitative. I think about the quantitative. I overanalyze everything.
Yep.
To the point where I'm so comfortable, not just why we're doing it this way, but I've already thought out 5 or 6 like if-thens, right? Like what's our iteration going to be? If this doesn't work, how do I tweak this? Like if we're going to go there, it's not going to be scale. We're going to have to be like verticalized fandoms. Like how's that going to work? Like I've already contemplated all that. Yep. The decision to say screw you to YouTube initially was 100% ego driven, not being strategic. Right. And that the lesson I learned was not about YouTube, it was about myself and not letting ego, like not only was that the biggest mistake I made, but it was like, how do I never make that mistake again?
Yep. Right.
And that was a big change for me.
Yeah. So when you started getting into like, the YouTube and, obviously you started doing a lot of the great segments with celebrities, how hard was it to secure your first, and what did that look like, getting that first person? Who was that first person?
Look, we can go way back. So the first guy on Sneaker Shopping with Joe LaPuma, who's, Bayshore guy, who's actually coming to my house for dinner tomorrow night, which is wild.
That's fine.
Our first guest was Jim Jones. And I don't even know if we had the name Sneaker Shopping yet.
Yeah. Did you have to pay him or he just came
on?
Oh,
no. You got to remember, we still had a lot of leverage. Complex was a very important brand. We still had the magazine. We had the digital ad network. We were like the biggest game in town from a culture perspective. So we had a lot of leverage, both like, philosophically and theoretically and just kind of gravitas in the marketplace. So we were able to get we never paid people to come on. We never did.
That's great.
But we were still, you got to remember, this is 13, 14, 15 timeframe. And I don't want to get into the whole racist side of things. But at the end of the day, culture was still dismissed as this secondary thing, right? We still were not getting the credit that we deserved in the marketplace as the amount of impact and influence we were making. So that was reflective from PR, from the people, like people's handlers, their managers. Our first guest for Hot Ones was Tony Yayo. And I love Tony Yayo.
Right.
But he's the third most important guy in G Unit, right? Yeah. That was like a Hot Ones, an unbelievable show. But we were begging people to come on because they were like, well, wait a second, I have to go and eat hot sauce? Yeah. I don't get it, right? These things took a long time, right? Yep. And it took a lot of patience and it took a lot of belief in our version of what the world was going to look like and our narrative of culture and being fun and inclusive. Like Complex, people don't understand. Look, a lot of people and we could talk about the implosion of Vice and how it was a big house of cards and all that as well. And not just, and other brands as well. The one thing that people really don't understand is, as cool as we were at Complex, we were never exclusive. We were always very inclusive. It's a fun brand. It's a positive brand. We like to tell stories. We like to bring everybody along. We like to have fun on camera, on content. This isn't this dark, brooding, negative, gotcha, any of that. It wasn't our vibe.
Right.
And that's a little harder sometimes because it's not super salacious. But what's interesting is it might not be as popular initially, especially out in the marketplace, but what's amazing is actually it's a better way to build verticalized fandoms foundationally because people like positive. They like to feel like this is somebody I like and I'm not just, I'm learning from, I'm having fun with, I can smile, I know I can count on what they're gonna bring to the table. These are little things that I don't think a lot of people think about, but we were very deliberate about every aspect of that.
That's great. So obviously none of this would have happened without the right leadership. And everyone has different...
Big, deep bench of leaders, but yes.
100%. And obviously it starts at the top. And I know you're a good energy guy, and I know there's all different types of leaders. Some leaders have good energy, some don't. There's all different types of leaders. But what is your perspective on that? Because You can't get, if you're not charged up, you can't get the rest of the team charged up. And obviously through the challenges and issues, you got to push through that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like, look, it's hard, right? Because not everybody's, you got to be true to who your personality is. Now, I don't think you and I are probably very different. We definitely have a lot of football coach in us, right? But that, like, think about like trying to ask some really smart kid who's more of an introvert to try and be that. That's going to come off so disingenuous, and it's not going to work. It's not the same way a one-size-fits-all approach to an entrepreneur, like the entrepreneur's business, doesn't work. A one-size-fits-all to leadership does not work either.
I agree 100%.
There's a lot of leadership by example. Ideally, even if you're a football coach, from the way you talk or the way you enter a room or the way you position your business, you're this great amalgamation of all aspects, right? You're also a lead by example, always being the first in the door and the last out the door. Like when somebody comes to you with a problem, I get very emotional. I get very upset. I never get upset at people. I don't get upset at people. I get upset at the situation. And you got to make sure they understand that, because I'm upset. I'm as upset as you are. Even if you were the cause or the fuck up, I'm on the same side of the table here to solve that problem with you. I'm the ultimate in support. I'm the ultimate backstop. Like the buck stops with like us, because ultimately, like, look, when we were 538 people, I think, at our biggest, right? And by the time a problem got into my office, I like to make a joke. It'd be like, that's because 537 other people couldn't solve it. And by the way, it happened every hour, on the hour, every single day, right? And look, I definitely flew off the handle and I'm very emotional. But again, I never got emotional at somebody. Like it's always at the situation, and I'm always there to solve the problem. And you want to be very thoughtful and very dynamic, and then you want to be able to communicate that thoughtfulness and dynamism internally and externally. And that's where you have some elements, right? So you want to be the best version of yourself, which is an amalgamation of the best leaders that you've worked with, for, or observed. And I think that, to me, is the way to think about it. Like, it's not to use a thing from our childhood, but like I always looked at like the way I developed myself and my personality and my leadership was like Voltron. Like it's like I got to take a little bit of that and a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it all comes together.
You know, I talk about this all the time, being emotionally intelligent, right? You got to understand people. You got to know what makes people tick. You got to understand that. And everyone always thinks it's always about money. It's not always about money.
Yeah. By the way, it's less about money for way more people than most people think.
100%.
And you know what? The one thing, it's a word, and it's not that I don't have empathy, but I actually hate using that word because I think people use it wrong and they use it too much. The workplace doesn't need more empathy. The workplace needs more respect. It needs more respect between people, and it needs more respect for people's ideas, and it needs more respect from a conversational perspective, not petting. Empathy to me is for your child. Like respect needs to be increased in the workplace. And I know it sounds like I'm splitting hairs, but to me, there's a huge chasm between the two.
Listen, it's one of our core values. You know, speaking of core values, I wanted your perspective on this. So I know people ask me sometimes for advice, like, you know, I've been running my business for a couple of years, and we need to have values. So they come up with these different values, right? And the leader or the CEO, whoever it is, doesn't even align with those values, which never works. And I see a lot of companies failing at this all the time. Like, it starts at the top. You either lead by example or you don't. Like, I give good examples. Like, you know, you came upstairs, you see how clean the office is. I had people...
Shocked, by the way.
I had people literally wipe down countertops, pick up... If there's a speck of dust on the floor, they'll pick it up. But when you set that standard, even like when I have brand new franchise owners come in, they've never been here before. They just keep everything because they see it, right? And that's really where your core values have to develop from.
So, first of all, there's so much to unpack there. Like, there's so many different ways to go about that. One of my favorite commencement speeches, it was a great speech, and I can't can't remember who gave it. I think it was like one of the super 5-star general at West Point.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And it started out, and
Making
it
the
was
bed?
something little about making your bed,
Yeah, I
right?
remember it, yep.
And I can't believe I feel terrible that I can't remember this guy's name. And it's the little things, right?
Yep.
I have a little statement. It's on my Twitter handle, my X handle, whatever the hell you want to call it these days. But it's like, no matter how small, you always got to think big, right? Like every little detail and nuance. I'm not saying everyone will catch it, but someone will.
Yep.
And someone will appreciate it. And you never know who that person is.
Love that.
And you never know why.
Love that.
And you want to close deals, build businesses, have great partnerships. You do everything right all the time, especially when no one's looking, and with great care and great deliberation and great consideration, you're going to win.
100%.
You're going to win.
You're making me think of a good story I want to share quickly. So, we have the bank upstairs on the first floor. The other day I was walking out. I had to run out. There's an older woman walking out, and she needed some help, so I helped her to her car, put her in a car. A very sweet lady. We were making some small talk. And, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I just, thank you so much. I said, yeah, have a great day. I get a call 2 days later. Her son calls me up, just became a client, bought a huge package, and referred, I think 3 or 4 people already. Not even expecting anything. But that's why those little things do matter.
It was actually going to be a campaign slogan. I'm a big politics fan, right? Just because of the psychology behind it.
Yep.
As much as I loathe it as a category. But the first George Bush was running against Bill Clinton and all the affairs started coming out.
Yep.
And I give George Bush a lot of credit. So if somebody came to him with a great line, you can't be one type of man and another type of president, which, by the way, probably would have buried Clinton. But Bush wouldn't run with it. So number one, it says a lot because number one, I don't disagree with that statement. But what's funny is Bush embodied that statement because he wouldn't use it against him because
Love
it's
that.
not the right way to do it.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
People don't understand how, I get chills when really big, important, smart people who don't have to do everything the right way anymore do, because it sets the tone that's the way you should go about your life, who you are for your family. I love the fact that when I run into people I worked with, my investors, and my kids are there, everybody goes out of their way to talk to them about me. That's
great. Special.
Dude,
Yep.
It's as good as it gets, man.
The best, man.
It's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Forget about the bank account.
Yep.
Forget it. That's what it's all about.
100%. 100%. So before we finish up, is there a question that I didn't ask that you would have asked?
Oh, geez. Probably a lot. I tend to not be very traditional in the way I look at anything.
Right.
You know what's so funny? I'm a big believer in going after what really drives people. And when I say this, I'm talking about the third, the way AI works, where the magic happens at about the 12th prompt, not the first through 11.
Yep.
It's the 12th prompt,
Yep.
right? Be like, well, what drives you? Why did you start this business? All those things. To me, I'm like, well, wait a second. Why? What is unique about your life, your perspective, or your wants that is going to make this business and this brand that much better than anybody else's? And I think every successful entrepreneur will actually have a great answer to that, where I think there's a lot of people, that's where they would get exposed in the holes in their thought process, in the holes in their wantedness, and the holes in the approach. And that to me doesn't get asked enough, not just by you, but by anybody on on all these business and entrepreneurial podcasts. It's no, really. What happened to you Like, why are you a sick lunatic to have to do this? Like, I make the joke. Like, I'm not gonna now answer my own question. Like, look, my dad, I always really good at school. Like, I always did very well in school. But I make the joke that until I was 16 years old, I thought my name is, what are you, a fucking moron? Like, that's how I grew up. No matter what I did, it wasn't good enough, because my dad's like, you have to, number one, he goes, you are better. So my expectations start up here. That's like, and anything less is a massive failure. So the bar was, like, I really did not love my dad for, I didn't get it in the beginning. Like, I always loved my dad and admired him, but I didn't understand why he was so hard on me until much later. And that's a little bit of a sickness in me. Like, it's why I'm so deliberate about every little thing. Like, because it's like, I'm like, I hear him going, I know you can do it better. I know this is not good enough. I know, like, I hear it all the time. To me, that is a massive driver for me.
I love that.
And it's like, when I have nothing left, that's still there.
That's why everyone needs their why, right?
That's right.
And at the end of the day, I do agree with what you're saying. A lot of people don't really dive into that. If we had a 4-hour podcast, maybe we can get into that. But we'll both.
Or if you drank bourbon, you just get lost.
There you go.
But that's.
But I think I go back and forth a lot, because my life growing up was not great, and I do believe, like, I question sometimes if people really can be very successful if they don't experience pain. Because like, the way I look at this, and let me finish so you understand what I'm saying here. Growing up for me was very, very difficult, right? And I had a lot of disappointment, constant disappointment. I could sit here for hours telling you stories, right? But like, it's almost like I become so numb to it that when I get disappointment in business and things happen, it doesn't affect me as much. Then I flip it on the other side, and I talk about fitness. Like, I tell everyone, you should be, pushing yourself, exercising. And I like to choose suffering first thing in the morning, because when you suffer first thing in the morning, the rest of the day becomes that much easier.
You're running downhill.
Exactly. Someone quits, this happens, someone serves you with a lawsuit, whatever it is. It doesn't affect you as much. But if everyone was able to be programmed like that, and, because like, my wife hates when I say this, because she's a teacher, but I think school is so backwards. How they teach you, how the things are done. And I remember I used to sit in this college class, and this guy would tell me I'd never do anything great in my life. And the whole time I was thinking, like, this guy's trying to teach me about business. I want to know what's in his bank account. And it definitely wasn't a lot, right? Because I know that for a fact. I saw him one day driving his car, and it was like breaking down.
Listen, I'm not trying to crap on teachers, but especially college professors are a bunch of people who probably, most of them didn't even try. Like, people who are academics, it's a very difficult thing for somebody like me or you. Like, it is very difficult for me to listen to an like a lifetime academic. Like, it's just very difficult, because everything is theoretical. Yep. Nothing. Look, I've seen the best business plans in the world, right? And so I'm gonna echo what you said. I'm not arguing with one thing you said. Yep. I actually think the best entrepreneurs I've ever met are the most broken people. They are.
I would agree with you.
They are.
I agree.
They are. And who've reassembled themselves into something special, and the willingness to take on that pain for others is very key from an entrepreneurial perspective, because you have to be, you're the umbrella for the entire company, from all of the crap. Because if everybody had to deal with everything that you did, no business would ever win. Yep. It would never win. Yep. Somebody has to step up and be the shield. But there's the best business plans I've ever seen, the best ideas I've ever seen. I'll take an idea that's 70% great with a real go-to-market a leadership team that understands how to manifest success, than 100% idea where like everyone's like, well, here's a perfect model. Like, oh yeah, it's a perfect model. Great. Okay. Now, when because there's it's a new to world product in a new to world category. You have education, marketplace education before they even get to the education of your specific product, but the justification of the product in this thing. Have you why is the sales lag not 18 months versus 6 months that you have in your perfect model? Oh, we didn't think about that. So you have no real world, you're proving to me you have no idea how it's really going to manifest in reality.
Yep.
And by the way, I've had that specific conversation 18 times.
I'm sure.
And there's so many, right? But give me an executor with
action,
with who is not going to give up, and you give me a team of people. And by the way, here's the other thing that people don't get. I think Elon said this, so I'm going to steal a little bit, but it's like no matter how big a company gets, it's still these like ninja task forces. Like you give me 5 or 6 people to throw on fixing a problem or a new initiative, and they have the right combination of will, determination, grittiness, figuring out a way, they're the Navy SEALs, Delta Force, whatever.
They're gonna win.
But no. But it doesn't take that many people to be massively successful.
It doesn't.
For huge companies and other things like that. You can't have one difference maker only. But if you have 5 that really kind of have a shared vision of what success looks like, but non-redundant skill sets, that is what I look for in teams all the time.
Yep.
Not like this perfect, here's the leadership team and, oh, look at this, check box, and this guy went here and sat on that board and did this and this. It's like, well, wait a second. You give me 5 people who rolled up their sleeves, figured something out in each of their specialties, even if they weren't the CEO, then that's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, it's not a difficult formula. It's just difficult to find.
Yep. That's why I said easy to say, not easy to do.
No.
But listen, we can keep going on for hours. Rich, thank you so much for coming on.
100%.
I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Got a lot of nuggets out of it. Until next time, fuel your drive. See ya. Legend. Legend.